How can I deal with the harm caused by family opposition to marriage? This is a very difficult situation, and I've seen a number of people in this situation. People, people who have controlling family members, either they don't want them to get married, or they want them to marry a person from a particular group, or they just want them to get married no matter what. And all these scenarios bring problems. The first situation where I've seen people where they have family members who don't want them to get married at all. Um, One case I know of where a lady was having to work, and the her father was taking all her money off her, or pretty much all of it. And why? I raised you so many years, give me your money. So she's a dutiful daughter, said, okay, here, take it. So she was working and all that. And then a proposal comes, and, a good proposal, good in, his deen and whatever. And he says, no, you can't marry him. And then just makes up some excuse, or he's from this caste or that caste. This is not a concern in Islam. Castes are from the Hindu tradition. So why? Just so he could keep, raking in the dollars, right? Wrong, and this is dhulm. Another situation where parents, are controlling, where no, you have to marry this person or you can't marry that person. What do the fuqaha say? Imam al-Marghinani in Sahib al-Hidayah, this central text in the Hanafi school, he says it clear in Bab al-Wasiyah. He says that if a suitor comes and someone is happy to marry this suitor and he's suitable for them, there's religious suitability, and he can provide for her, so he does kafa suitability, and he she's happy with him, it's wajib on the parents to get them married. If it's a good match, he has good deen, he can provide for her, and he's right for her, you have to get them married. Not we have this particular person in mind, whether they're good for you or not. My nephew or my friend's nephew, or I promised someone to you, when you were, 6 days old, right? Or whatever, I promised you to that family, and like this person has a choice. And then other scenarios, parents just feeling pressure from society, or you have to get your kids married by a particular age. So it's like the lineup, a list, like a line of suspects in the police station. Pick out the criminal, pick out which one you want to marry. So it's and I've seen situations where people have been forced not to get married for many years. And yes, the family should be involved. But if it's a case, I'm giving an extreme scenario here. This is my personal opinion, right? Extreme scenario. If someone has parents or family members who are preventing them from getting married, and this has happened for a long time, and they don't feel like they can ever get married with the support of their family, or the only person they support is someone wrong for them, go get married. Right? Because what they are doing there is dhulm. Generally, I do not advocate for people to get married without family support, because Allah has given us families as a blessing. And having family members and having these connections and ties are a blessing, and we're told to thank Allah for these blessings, and part of thanks is maintaining these ties. So someone who's been raised by their parents and just disappears and goes and gets married secretly without their parents' involvement, that's wrong, and they're likely to alienate their parents and ruin that relationship. So that's not great. So how to deal with the harm? So it depends, we have a broad range of scenarios. So one answer can't cover it all. But the first things first, if they're trying to stop you from marrying a particular person, a particular type of person, first find out, is this person suitable for me according to the standards of the deen? And if they are, then speak to your parents or speak to them and say, look, there's no legitimate reason for their opposition. If they don't listen, see if there's anyone who can speak to them, a relative, a neighbor, someone who can talk sense to them. And if it doesn't work out, then you know what? Ask Allah to bring about what's best, pray an istikhara. Sometimes the answer to an istikhara is facilitation. So if things don't go easy and problems crop up, that's usually a sign that this isn't going to be a good thing. But okay, this happened once, then it happened a second time and a third time, and there's a consistent pattern now. Then, at that point when it gets too much, and I don't mean like just, it's been day 3, but like it's actively preventing people from getting married, and I mean, it's encouraged in our deen for a reason. And so then a person, as I said earlier, if it's just dhulm on their side and you're just preventing that person, go do what you have to do, get married, even if they're not on board with it, because they're the ones in the wrong there. But generally, start by addressing their concerns. Secondly, if you can't get through to them, try and find someone who can communicate with them and can get them to see reason. We've got the legal rulings of the deen, and convey that to them. As for the harm, it depends on what type of harm. If there's physical harm, that's unacceptable, right? Call the police or something, right? Physical, if that's unacceptable. If there's other forms of harm, then know that any sort of harm that comes to you, you are going to be repaid and rewarded for it. But know that harm is not tolerated, not in the deen, right? La darar wa la dirar, according to the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so you can't harm, and then you can't reciprocate with further harm. But sometimes people can cause harm, like emotional harm and psychological harm, trauma, through their words or through their actions. So if it's not a case of someone being abusive, they might just say hurtful things. Then in that situation, turn to Allah and know that anything you go through, you're going to benefit from it. Allah will bring you benefit in your deen, dunya and akhirah from it, right? Even if it's sins being removed or if it's your rank being raised, you will reward that. Sometimes to maintain a relationship, it's if some harm comes to you, then sometimes it's best to not respond. Sometimes it's best to put a distance between yourself and that person. And if they ask, why is there this rift between us? You say, look, you say or you've said these things that are hurtful to me. And every human being knows what it is to feel pain. And, we've seen this so many times. Sometimes parents are abusive to their children. And then when they see something from the children that indicates the children have had enough, they start acting like, oh no, we're all innocent. No, you've been abusing them all these years, and now you're acting all innocent, that you haven't done anything wrong. So that's another wider discussion about the rights of parents. And parents have a tremendous right, but they don't have a right to abuse their children and then think they still have to obey us. That's a different scenario altogether. Allah. So that's the type of harm. Allah knows best.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.